Hey everybody, good evening. Good evening. Sandra Sheffred, host of Race and Races. I wasn't on last week. I think I might be, I might do a show like every other week or something like that. Or, maybe every week. I don't know. We're gonna see what it warrants. And then also we're gonna make some shift. I think once some school board stuff start get on and popping, I'm probably gonna do a lot more school board related shows. But for right now, I think the topic of this episode is whether or not they're gonna be mass deportations, because as we know, President-elect, who will now be known as 47 instead of 45, is still making cabinet picks, and those are still very interesting. So we're gonna talk about a couple of things. I got a little bit of notes of some things that I wanted to address, right? So the mass deportation is really about still some of the consequences for how some certain populations decided to vote for the elections. I know a lot of our Latino brothers and sisters supported future number 47 in an enormous way. And I think a lot of that had to do with misunderstanding, misinformation, them not realizing what mass deportation really means. I think they excluded folks that are not going to be excluded, because one of the things people fail to sometimes understand is that when you unlawfully enter the United States, you've actually committed a crime, and it's a federal offense to come to the country undocumented without papers or whatever. So, when people say things like, oh no, he's only going to send back the criminals, people who cross the border undocumented could be considered a criminal too. It's a lot of discretion that's been used to not prosecute those cases, but those cases very well can be prosecuted. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that. Coming in undocumented is a crime. The other thing that I mentioned last time too was that, about that whole movement that was ban the box. It was real big like some years back. People pretty much had stopped talking about it. I wanted to bring it up again just because of, particularly with the outcomes of this election. I think we should ban the box. We should allow people to get an opportunity to come into the room, state their case, explain why it is that they were convicted of a felony or been arrested. And, they may very well be the best person for the job. And we shouldn't make permanent decision that they may have made on maybe one of the bad days or worst days of their life shouldn't have such a lasting, lifelong impact. So, I'm like, ban the box then, tell me what your thoughts are. You can put that in the chat, right? Yes. And I think since we last got together, Matt Gaetz dropped out of the race for the AG. He's no longer trying to be the AG of the United States anymore. I think he realized that he didn't have the votes and it wasn't going to happen. And there were some Republicans who were going to turn on him. So he went ahead and bowed out. Pam Bundy, who's also from Florida, is the next person up. She has some controversial stuff going on in her background too. I mean, one of the things was that one of the reasons, former 45, future 47 had lost the ability to have charities was because one of the things he did was that he wrote a campaign check to Pam Bundy from his charitable organization, and you can't do that. I mean, he did that, but you can't do that. And she also helped him with a lot of his Trump University litigation and stuff like that when she was the Attorney General of Florida. But so she's the next person up, right? And I had some notation about whether or not, there's a whole lot of double standards going on. I don't think we need to talk about that because we know it is, right? And since I took my last set of notes, President Joe Biden decided to pardon his son, Hunter Biden. And a lot of folks are big mad, and they're saying that he should not have done that. Particularly, one of the main reasons they're saying he shouldn't have done that was because he had said he wasn't going to do that. He had said, oh, no, I'm not going to pardon my son. I'm just going to let the justice system do what it do. And whatever the consequence may be, he will have to deal with it. President Biden was like, I think he pardoned him for anything that may or may not have happened for about a 10-year period. I mean, 10 whole years. So whatever, maybe the future. And what I think happened was that he may have had some concerns that the future administration was going to just continue to maybe find things to charge him with. And I'm not saying they might have been unlawful, that things he didn't do, he may have actually done them. They were going to charge him. And even if he ended up, with a not guilty on the end, it's very expensive to litigate federal cases. He already has a history of substance abuse and all these different types of things. Just the stress and the pressure of that could have been overwhelming. And Biden was like, listen, I'm 80 something. That's my son. I got the power to do it. I'm going to do it. And I did it. And whatever happens, happens. Because at this point, he ain't trying to get reelected anymore. Like whether or not he creates some problems for any future Democrat that was part of his administration, maybe he did. But at this point, I think the man ain't care, And as a parent, I think many of folks would have done that. I think many of parents would have made the same decision Joe Biden did. Now, whether or not as president, he should have done that, I don't know. But I understand. I understand exactly why he did that. All right. So we talked about Pam Bundy with the AG, and then there's been some talk going around the internet that the HUD secretary must be a black job because the person nominated by 45 Future 47 is also a man of color. I think he's out of the state of Texas to run HUD. Nobody else. There's a lot of Latinos on the that will be secretaries, which I think is a good thing. And then, we have the one black person that's going to be HUD secretary. And I think all the ones I could think of from the time I could think of, they all been black people. So I guess that's for sure one black job that's in the federal government. And then more and more we keep hearing about what Elon Musk and Vivek is going to do with this department of I think it's something about some spending or whatever. They're going to try to get rid of fraud, waste, and abuse in the federal system. I think what's going to happen, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs because there's some belief that, there are way too many people working for the federal government. They're going to make some of these other people retire. I think they sick and tired of people working from home. So all the folks with the 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs, you have to start going back into the office. And that's going to be something you'll face. I think it's going to be painful before it level off, because I don't know if all the things, Future 47 wants to do, he'll be able to do, but I think he'll do enough of them that we're going to feel the impact. The other thing that's happening too is companies are laying people off already. I'm like, the tariffs ain't even started yet. What do you mean? But people are already losing their jobs. Big companies are saying we have to do layoffs in anticipation of whatever the future holds. So they're doing that. So we got that to look forward to. And I keep forgetting this man's name, but I think another person is going to probably give up soon. That's another one of the cabinet picks, Pete Hegseth. I think if he had a little bit of shame, he would have given up already, right? I think he would have just been like, you know what? This is a distraction. I don't want to cause, all of these here problems. And so let me go ahead and step back, because first they started talking about me, when I say me, I mean him, with women. Now they're saying a man come to work drunk and all type of stuff. And then they're accusing him of also ripping off the nonprofits that he was working for. But what's always interesting to me is like, you lose one job for ripping off a nonprofit, then another one hire you. And I think it's about 3 nonprofits that they said he worked for and pretty much mismanaged their funds. And if you can't mismanage the budget of a nonprofit, there's no way you should be managing the Department of Defense. And I think they have one of the biggest budgets of all of the agencies in government. And I heard some number like it's over $800 billion. And if that's the case, you don't want the person that can't manage 5 million to have access to 800 billion. What that's going to look like, right? So we'll see what happens in the next couple of days. if Pete Hegseth is gonna go ahead and continue being the weekend anchor at Fox and leave, the Department of Defense to someone else. But I'm from Florida, and you know whose name is being circulated to be the person to be the next potential nominee is none other than the governor of the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis. At least, he has a Harvard Law degree. He was in the military, so he may have a lot more experience. And then he's, won the state. He's doing his second term as governor of Florida, so he at least understands government. He's had to run a state and is well into his second term, so he at least have more experience than the weekend anchor. So we'll see how that goes. But what that ends up doing is that appointment would create yet another vacancy in Florida. I believe the lieutenant governor, who may be a Cuban lady, God forgive me for not remembering her name. She would become the governor and serve out the rest of his term, because I don't think that's one of the ones where they'll do like a special election or anything like that. I think people just kind of move up, and I might be wrong. We also have the Senate seat that's open because Marco Rubio is he hasn't resigned. He hasn't fully given up his seat yet because he still has to go through confirmation. But that's actually one of the few people who doesn't have a lot of controversy surrounding his name. So it's most likely that he will be the next Secretary of State. So that's going to open up a Senate seat, which the governor has the ability to appoint someone to that seat. Now, there's all this talk about maybe Laura Trump getting an appointment to be the senator from Florida. I mean, maybe that's what he has to do in order for him to get the DOD appointment. I don't know, but those are the talks that are circulating. And also remember, Matt Gaetz, he actually resigned from the House because he thought he was going to be Attorney General. But I don't think that's why he resigned from the House. He resigned from the House because he didn't want the ethics report to come out. Those are my thoughts and the thoughts of many others. But I think he really resigned so the ethics report didn't come out. And so he's not going back. He's out. So there's going to be a special election. I may have heard that they're going to do it sometime in March, which is actually quicker than when Alcee Hastings passed and and they needed to do an election for him. That one took, I want to say, almost a year. If not a year, it was almost a year from the time he died, from the time that they had the election, because Sheila Shefferlis McCormick, who ended up winning that special election, she had 8 months to run for the seat again. So fortunately for her, she was successful, and then by her third shot at it, she ran on the polls. So that was like a really good, that was a good thing for her. But yeah, so the seat that Matt Gaetz held, they're going to get a representative far quicker than the people in Broward and Palm Beach when Hastings passed away. So we'll see how that goes. And there's another person, don't ask me his name, but he was the sheriff of Hillsborough County. They wanted him to be, Trump had nominated him to be in charge of DEA. He first said yes because he got excited. And then I guess he realized that's not an easy job, or maybe there's some other reasons, but he said he had some time to think about it, and he's going to just go ahead and stay in Hillsborough because he don't want all them fentanyl problems, right? Because that's what anybody who can't stop fentanyl from coming in is going to be blamed for fentanyl coming in, right? So I guess he's like, listen, just leave me right here. I'm good. I don't need all this national spotlight and all these national problems because he's going to end up dealing with border issues. So he decided to just go ahead and say, no, I'm going to stay in Hillsborough. And outside of that, I don't think there's too many more people besides Tulsi Gabbard. There's some concerns about whether or not she's going to make it because she's too cozy with the Russians. I think WWE woman is still, set to be the education person. I read something where there's another billionaire that's going to be in charge of NASA or something like that. There's some other billionaire that's going to be charging NASA. So we're gonna see how that goes. So all of that is interesting. Again, I want to know why they want jobs that pay $200,000 a year and you got $1 billion. You make that money in a minute or a day or whatever, So let's see if they're, they'll have the true capacity to govern, and they're gonna make a liar out of me, and things are gonna be good and smooth and nice and not too stressful. But I at least have to tell you. So I think those were the folks that I wanted to mention. Yeah, I think those are the ones that I wanted to mention. So we need to look out for that, see how that's going to go. I wish it all well. I hope it's going to be all right. Cause we just trying to get through the days right now, right? We're just trying to get through the days right now. 45 has been low key. However, he's making appointments and hopefully all of this works out. But, the other interesting thing that came out was that, when you win, you have access to money to transition, right? To transition from, old government to yours, to get your people, hire staff, and do all of these things. Mr. Man was like, I don't need y'all money. I don't need y'all money because I got money, and I'm not going to tell you what I got the money from. So I was like, oh, okay. What does that mean? So he didn't use the money that the government had available for him to use to set up his transition team, because he said he has money, and we don't know where it came from, but he has money. I mean, all those billionaires, I guess you do. They're not doing that job to get paid. At least, not the regular check. So we'll see. All right, so that's all good. Yeah. So the topic, mass deportations. So I'm gonna spend a couple minutes talking about that, and then I'm gonna give y'all back y'all time, because we're resting, right? A lot of folks are resting. There were some meetings that I was going to on Sundays and Mondays, and them sisters still ain't back yet, because they're still, a lot of people are still processing what happened. I mean, I understand what happened. So I think we're past the processing. We understand what happened, but we're still just maybe disappointed. And so some people are disappointed. And the interesting thing is people are handling that disappointment in different ways. There are folks who are like, you know what? This is a country that my ancestors built. I'm going to figure out a way how to create my space in this country. And that's what I'm doing, right? So there's some people that are just finding their space. And then there are others like, I'm out of here, man. This is too expensive for me to be tolerating all this disrespect. Y'all don't want me here. I want to be here less, right? So there are people who are really making moves to just leave the United States. And, you can't tell people how to live out the rest of their life, because if they got the big age like me, we don't live more, we got fewer years ahead than we had behind us, right? So at this point, people are like, listen, I'm too old for this. I lived more than half my life. Let me go figure out how I could, whatever the rest of it is going to be the best version of that, right? And for some people, the best version of that is going to be for them to be advocates and continue to and try to make a way for younger folks, the next generation. They want to do that. And the rest of them are like, listen, I just need peace. I need to go to sleep. I want to be able to eat, good food and heal and stress and work on my body and live as long as I can with the least amount of stress. So yeah, so there's different ways in which people are responding to what happened a month ago, not a month ago today, a month ago tomorrow. They're finding different ways to respond to that. So, that's that, right? The other concern that we have, I had a conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about how they're saying they're going to eliminate the Department of Education. And I had to tell them, say, listen, when I realized, when I got to college, I realized that a lot of the things I was taught were lies anyway. So I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, but one of the things I will say, and I am going to say, is that parents, you really have to educate, particularly parents of color, Black parents, parents raising Black children, you have to educate your children on your own, because what they're learning in school, particularly when it comes to our history, is not true anyway. A lot of it's not true. I remember my son in 4th grade, this was more about Native Americans, and it was in the book, it was saying, oh yeah, how they gave up 1 million acres to the Spanish or the French or something like that. I'm like, them people ain't give up no acres. Those acres were taken, but this is how it's being taught. So if you want your children to learn the truth, you have to educate them on your own anyway. And let's not get into when we were learning about abolitionists, and I was talking about when we learned about John, I think his name was John Brown or whatever. And the books they taught me that we had in school said the man basically had mental health issues, and he was crazy because he was trying to free enslaved folks. When I got to college, I learned about what abolitionists were, and they didn't tell me that that man had no mental illness. They said that man just didn't believe in the institution, and he didn't think and so he was fighting to help free enslaved folks. That's two different versions of stuff, right? So, again, I'm not saying I want them to eliminate the Department of Education, but what I am saying is that we do have to supplement the education that our children are getting anyway. I think this is going to have a bigger impact on higher ed, mainly HBCUs, because I know just one example is that the state of Tennessee owes Tennessee State University a whole bunch of money. There was a couple years ago, they had really high enrollment, like it might have been like right after that, Deion Sanders went to Jackson State, and there was this whole renewed interest and people attending HBCUs and all that type of stuff. And Tennessee State is actually a great institution. One of my niece graduated from there. They're the Grammy Award winning music program and all of that type of stuff. So people go there. And the state didn't, and I think they still haven't given them their money, right? If you have a certain amount of enrollment, you get a certain amount of money from the state, and they were fighting to get that money, and I believe they still didn't get it yet. And another thing that happened too was that they just switched out the whole board of trustees over there. You just like, y'all got to go. Here's a new group in. Why y'all doing that? Because y'all don't want to give them people that money. So I think a lot of the Department of Ed stuff is going to happen on a college level, and I think it's going to have a bigger impact on HBCUs, and then maybe K through 12 is going to have some, and they will, because they're already talking about all the woke stuff, taking this book out, that book out, and all that stuff. But I think it's really going to impact HBCUs on a higher ed. Now this mass deportation stuff. So I'm gonna finish out the conversation with that. So as I said at the beginning, and for those who just joined, because I saw a couple people coming in right now. Listen, so this mass deportation, I'm telling you, nobody wants that, for one thing, right? People think they want it, they don't want it. And I mean, just a lot of the supporters of 45, Future 47, who voted for him because they're like, they want all these immigrants gone. I don't think they really understand what that means to say that you want all of these immigrants gone. That's one thing, right? So I think people don't really understand what the consequence of that is, what the effects of that is. And then they're going to find out that a lot of their besties are immigrants with no documents, and they didn't even know that, right? Because there's a lot of people that's in these streets white passing. But I did say that though, right? The other part of it is not only that the people don't want it, I don't think the administration really understand what it would actually take to do what it is that they're talking about. I don't think they have a clue of what mass deportation is going to look like, because I don't understand how they think that people aren't going to fight back in some sort of way. So you're just creating a lot more litigation, and I don't care if you got all them judges there. I don't care if you got the Supreme Court on lock. That's not going to be an easy thing. Y'all going to spend y'all time trying to deport people that are going to fight you tooth and nail all the way. So that's going to be expensive. And maybe that's what they want to do, right? Why they going to have people worried about immigration, and folks are going to be distracted about how all these folks are in court, and then they're going to be doing the real things that they want to do, which I ain't finna accuse nobody of nothing, because I don't know, but I just suspect it's going to be a lot of shenanigans happening, because there's too many people that are coming into that administration that's not truly qualified for the jobs that they're being given, right? And even if they weren't, if I had some confidence that they would have at least left the people there that are already that works for those agencies that understand, to allow them to continue to run them, that might have been okay. But I think they're going to just go clean house, because they're going to want to do it the way they want to do it, even though they don't know what they're doing. But let me get back to the point I was going to make. I truly don't think the administration understand what it sounds like, or what it means to try to send all these people back. I've been a practitioner of immigration law for over 25 years. At this, like, December is when 99 is when I started practicing immigration law. That's not true. Actually, I started practicing law in about the summer of 99, but I started practicing immigration law in 99. When I said December, I think that's when I went in. That's when I was practicing on my own. But I've been practicing immigration law for 25 years. And in those 25 years, you get to see a lot of things. And you get to see things that people, when you talk about sending them back home, they get very desperate, and they do very desperate type things, right? We've had stuff where planes have had to turn back. They had to go pick people, go get people back from the countries that they sent them to. There have been like stuff happening in facilities. One of the reasons why, I don't know if it's one of the reasons, I know they've had to subcontract out spaces in jails because they had to not have so many people in one space. There was a time where males and females used to be in the same facilities. That doesn't happen because things was happening. Because I'm telling you, when you're telling people that they're going to go back to a country that they probably left when they were babies, or that they did all types of things to get out of in the first place, and when you're saying sending them back and they can't come back to the United States at all, that you better off sentencing them people to a whole bunch of years in prison in the United States, because at least they know they can still see their family and they're here. But folks are going to get really, really desperate when you try to do that. And then this whole thing about going in, raiding people's houses and stuff like that. Listen, you don't want that. Like, even if you're, because again, people going to realize that they got friends that's undocumented or that's, not American, and they gonna be knocking on your door. And most people don't want folks coming to their house uninvited, because all kind of stuff be going on in people's houses that they don't want nobody to know about. And listen, there are certain communities, and I'm not going to call no names because I don't want nobody coming for my neck, but I'm telling you, there's certain communities, those houses don't be houses for real. They be medical facilities, they be gambling stuff, they be all kind of stuff, all kind of things going on in them houses that shouldn't be going on in them houses. And then y'all think y'all want people knocking on them doors looking for your cousin or whoever? Please, y'all don't want that. Y'all don't want that. And a lot of the people, particularly in Dade County, I'm telling you, people in Dade County that voted for that, y'all know y'all don't want the people knocking on y'all doors looking for nobody. Okay? You don't want that, because y'all know what y'all be doing in them houses over there, but that ain't my business. All right. So all that to say is this mass deportation is not going to be as easy as they think it is, for so many reasons, because people are going to litigate. They're gonna have people that it's gonna be catch me if you can type situations, catch me if you can, and it's just gonna get crazy. People gonna be knocking on your door randomly looking for somebody that you don't even know, that don't even live there. Like, really? This is what we trying to do? I mean, come on, like, y'all, I'm telling you, y'all don't want that, because it's going to affect you one way or another. And the other part that people don't I think that's really not taken into consideration is how it's going to have an impact on agriculture and farming. Again, I'm in Florida. We got I said agriculture and farming. I mean agriculture, farming, and construction. So that's what I meant to say, construction, because I'm in Florida. There's a lot of development happening here, and we got farms. And I'm telling you, I had a relative that worked on a roof for 45 minutes. He was like, I ain't about that life. He went on that roof, worked 45 minutes, like, I gotta go, left the people job in the middle of it. So, so when we talk about all this construction, this roofing, this hard work and stuff that people claim they want to do, when it comes down to it and you really got to do it, let's see if they do it for real. I worked in some and rural communities where there's a lot of agricultural work. Listen, people pick strawberries for fun in Homestead to go make, strawberry smoothies and ice creams and all that type of stuff. But imagine that being your gig for real, right? Like, you do it for fun and, a couple hours, but imagine, and you're getting paid by the hour. I don't know what it would be better if you got paid by the hour or the load or whatever it is. But again, these aren't jobs that people really want to do, particularly if you can probably stay home and make the same amount of money. I don't know. So we have to really think about how that's going to impact agriculture. Think about how that's going to impact construction. And we all need ag, because we want to be able to go into the store and get our fruits and, whatever it is that you're going to eat. You want, like, I need a roof. I want to be able, like, when it's time to get that roof done, people going to be there to do it. You have repairs. You want to be able to get all of this construction done. It's going to have an impact. It really, truly, truly is going to have an impact. But if that means that Americans are going to step up and start doing this work, I'm here for it. And it's not only going to be about Americans really stepping up to do that work. It's also going to be about whether or not corporations are going to step up and pay these people, pay Americans, not these people, pay Americans. And I shouldn't refer to nobody as these people. Pay Americans what they're going to want to be paid, because they're going to want insurance, they're going to want benefits, they're going to, want like a pension and all of this stuff. And you're going to be like, is it really worth paying all that money? And again, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying, are they really going to do that? So believe me, this whole mass deportation, immigration stuff, this tough stance that this administration want to take, I don't know how sustainable it is. I'm not saying that they probably won't try it in the beginning. I just don't know how sustainable it's going to be. But the point that I wanted to make to my Latino brothers and sisters who think that the only people that's going to be worried about deportation are what y'all call the criminals, entering the United States without proper documentation is a crime that can be prosecuted in federal court. So technically you're a criminal too. And so you're part of that group of folks that may be able to get sent back. And I'm not only saying that only Latinos, Latina and Latinos are the ones that came in unlawfully. There's a lot of people who did, but that community overwhelmingly voted in a way that I think was against their interests. And, we're going to see how this all plays out. So, so that's it. Immigration is going to be front of mind. When 45 went in the first time back in 17, day one, there was Muslim bans, all kind of stuff was happening. I don't know if that's going to be the target population, considering the Muslims in Detroit supported him. We'll see. Maybe they gave themselves a little reprieve, and this is, there's a different group to be targeted this time. We'll see. But immigration is going to be interesting. It's going to be rough in the beginning, I believe, because I keep saying it's going to be rough in the beginning, and I could tell that the community feels it, because we're having all of these webinars and meetings, and what are we going to do with Trump 2.0? What kind of things we need to put in place, how we need to represent our clients before all of this happened, because people are preparing for a rough ride initially. And I think that's going to be it. However, I'm unsure about how sustainable all of this going to be. So I don't know if they're going to be able to maintain that energy the entire time. All right. So coming into the country illegally is a crime. Hopefully the, folks who are just undocumented don't have to face that. The other point I want to make, y'all don't want the people knocking on your doors for no reason, looking for nobody. You don't want that. So, but that's what you voted for. So let's see what that's going to look like. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. With some of these picks. Hopefully Pete is gonna go on about his business, get some therapy, go to rehab, go fix his life or something like that. And then Florida's gonna have some openings. And the other thing is that race in California for the House is the Democrat won. They flipped that seat. So there's only one more Republican in the House of Representatives than Democrats. So any old thing that happens, that might change before the next 2 years. And I suspect, at least I hope Democrats are gearing up, getting it together so they can at least flip the House in 26, because that's pretty much all you can really do. Then 26, they got the House. There might be some Senate seats that are up that they can do something about, but I suspect they're putting in the work to flip the House in 26. I want to see that happen. And let's see it. So there'll probably be one more show before the holidays, and once I do that one show, then you probably won't see me again until the new year. But thank you guys for supporting me and supporting the effort. Please like and subscribe to the page, tell your friends about it, come check it out, because there's going to be a lot more content coming, and it's going to be, a lot of relevant content. So I'm revamping the show to make sure we're talking about all the things that people want to hear. All right. So have a good night. And thank you for your time. Elections happen.